Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we unpack the sources you share with us and turn pages into perspective.
And today, we are tackling something pretty profound.
Yeah, it's a paradox that really unnerves even the most seasoned, high-achieving leaders.
Hmm.
What if the one thing you've been fighting tooth and nail to control, the finances, the timeline, the people, is the very thing keeping you from the future you're meant to carry?
That tension right there between control and true capacity, that's the heart of our mission today.
So what are we getting into?
We're doing a deep dive into this radical concept of surrender in leadership. Our sources are, well, they're very clear on a foundational truth often termed God's economy.
Okay.
And it's that the leaders with the greatest and most sustainable authority are not the ones who clutch the reins the tightest.
But the ones who know when to let go.
The ones who know exactly when and how to release them.
Okay, let's unpack this, because we've been looking at sources that are asking us to engage in a massive reframe of what authority even means.
A huge reframe.
We are explicitly moving away from the limited, often exhausting strategy of pure self-reliance.
And moving toward divine dependence. And they argue this isn't just some spiritual comfort. They frame it as a strategic necessity.
Especially now.
Especially when you look at today's fast-paced, volatile, and, unpredictable global environment.
Precisely. Because surrender, on the surface, it feels like defeat. It feels like you're losing.
Of course it does. The world teaches us that control is our currency and certainty is our power.
Right.
But the core argument from these sources is the direct opposite. Surrender is the true doorway to a deeper, far more powerful kind of leadership.
It's a mechanism.
It is. It's a mechanism for yielding that opens doors and provides solutions that personal logic or professional metrics alone could never deliver.
Oh.
It's trusting beyond the limits of your own balance sheet.
Leaning not on your own understanding.
Exactly. Aligning with the wisdom in verses like Proverbs 3:5-6.
So let's start where most leaders live, under just constant pressure. You feel that quiet, persistent need to have all the answers, to project strength, and to make these definitive decisions on, frankly, woefully limited information.
And the core fear is always the same, isn't it?
Always. If I take my hand off the wheel,
Everything's going to fall apart.
everything is going to fall apart. It's an exhausting way to lead.
And that feeling of exhausting strain, that's the first sign. It's the warning light that you are operating near or at the ceiling of self-reliance.
The ceiling.
Yeah. The sources deliver this powerful core truth. The greatest threat to your leadership viability isn't external chaos, it's internal self-reliance.
Because it's limited.
It's a limited resource. Personal wisdom and strength have an absolute ceiling, a hard limit where your insight simply cannot take you any further. You eventually hit the wall of your own capacity.
And then you burn out.
And then you begin to burn out the resources you do have.
So what are the direct consequences? I mean, the sources detail a pretty clear, predictable erosion when a leader insists on operating from that place.
The symptoms are, well, they're diagnostic. Stress rises exponentially. Clarity shrinks because you're just overwhelmed by noise.
Right.
Your decision-making becomes fragmented because you lack a stable anchor. And critically, the spiritual foundation erodes.
This isn't just about feeling tired.
No, it's about operating with a diminished resource set. Self-reliance, while we celebrate it in business culture, is literally the bottleneck on your effectiveness.
That's a powerful visual self-reliance as a bottleneck. So if self-reliance creates a ceiling.
Then surrender, by contrast, removes it.
Okay.
Exactly. Surrender shifts leadership from what felt like a frantic, exhausting grind into a guided, intentional journey.
It's a strategic shift.
It is. It's a transition where obedience, which can sound passive, transforms into an active, high-level strategy.
And the modern environment just makes this more necessary.
Compounds it. Because the world is so fast-paced, unpredictable, and complex, relying solely on personal logic or past experience, it's just no longer sufficient.
Not enough.
Not anymore. You need access to resources that transcend your human limits to find stability in all this instability.
I hear that, and I agree with the diagnosis of the modern environment. But let's introduce some necessary tension here.
Okay.
For a high-performing leader, especially one facing a major crisis or a pivotal market shift, surrender sounds dangerously close to spiritualizing incompetence.
Giving up.
Yeah, giving up the fight. How do the sources address that criticism?
That is the essential challenge, and the sources confront it head-on. Biblical surrender is none of those things.
It's not passive.
No. It is defined as an active decision, a
Oh.
deliberate strategic realignment. You're not abandoning responsibility or, relaxing on the couch.
Right.
You are choosing to align your responsibility, your effort, your talent, your time directly under a higher direction and authority. It is not inaction. It's trust translated into immediate focused action.
I like that.
It's the difference between, say, rowing the boat in a storm and knowing that the pilot has the map, even if you still need to pull the oars.
And we even see this counterintuitive truth reflected in, well, in what might be considered secular leadership theory, right? We're talking about Robert Greenleaf's concept of servant leadership.
Yes. Greenleaf's model of the great leader humbling themselves first and leading by serving it echoes this profound spiritual truth. Humility isn't weakness.
It's a prerequisite.
It's the prerequisite for effective service and therefore for influence.
So let's ground this in a really compelling case study, one that just defies conventional metrics. Truett Cathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A,
Oh, yeah.
his choice to close on Sundays is the ultimate public demonstration of this principle.
Absolutely. I mean, think about the market pressure he faced.
It must have been immense.
When he made that decision, he wasn't running some huge national chain. He was running a small business.
And in the restaurant world.
In that competitive world, choosing to voluntarily give up a full day of sales a day that often generates, what, 15 to 20% of weekly revenue?
Yeah.
That was financially insane.
By any normal metric.
By any conventional metric, yes. This wasn't just a minor policy choice. It was surrendering the financial outcome and the potential for rapid scaling to a higher conviction.
So what was the long-term payoff that proved this wasn't incompetence?
Well, the surrender didn't cripple his influence. It exponentially multiplied it.
How so?
Closing on Sundays created immense clarity for the organization. It defined their values. It ensured employee loyalty and retention.
Because they had a guaranteed day off.
A guaranteed day off. And it became this unique, powerful, competitive differentiator.
Right.
Customers weren't just buying chicken. They were buying into a principle.
Yeah.
He released control over the immediate transaction volume.
And in return?
In return, he gained a non-replicable brand identity and profound cultural influence. That required moral courage and a vision that looks far beyond quarterly earnings.
The sources summarize the immediate gains from this so well. It is a powerful exchange, really.
It is.
When you release control, you gain clarity. When you yield your finite human plans, you receive infinite direction.
And when you humble yourself, God entrusts you with more.
That's the strategic advantage we're talking about.
That exchange is the core operating principle. It's the ultimate paradox, isn't it? Letting go to gain.
Let's pivot now to the consistent thread running through all the sources, the biblical blueprint.
What?
The kingdom of God is repeatedly built on contradictions. The weak shall be strong, the last shall be first, the servant shall lead. The ultimate paradox is confirmed here. Authority flows only from submission.
It's the unchanging divine sequence. You see it again and again in Scripture. God entrusts lasting influence only to the surrendered.
It's a formula.
The pattern is so consistent. It's a formula for leadership preparation. Calling, then breaking, then surrender, and only then authority.
And that breaking stage, that's key.
It's essential. Its purpose is to empty the leader of that exhausting self-reliance so that they could be filled and sustained by divine dependence. It's structural work.
And we see this blueprint everywhere. Let's slow down and look at what specifically was surrendered in some of these foundational narratives. Take Moses, for instance.
Right. Moses had to surrender the security of Midian, his comfortable, predictable life as a shepherd.
And more than that.
And, more importantly, he had to surrender his self-confidence and his intellectual resistance before confronting Pharaoh. His leadership wasn't ready-made.
No.
It was forged in a period of yielded waiting, of saying, I can't do this on my own.
David is another incredibly powerful example of this. I mean, he had the opportunity and even the moral justification to take the throne by force.
Multiple times. But he spent years in exile, constantly surrendering vengeance, surrendering his timing, and surrendering his political ambition.
He chose God's schedule.
He was actively choosing God's schedule over his own very human, very justifiable urge for immediate justice. That weight of surrendering the right to vengeance is what proved him ready for the throne.
That's a deep spiritual discipline.
It is.
And Esther, facing the annihilation of her people, she had to surrender her personal safety and comfort, the most basic human need.
Before she could step into that moment of royal courage.
These aren't soft decisions.
No, these are acts of high moral courage. And ultimately, the sources remind us that Jesus modeled this pathway for all leaders as the perfect sequence,
Sarah in Gethsemane,
releasing his own will, which led to victory at Calvary,
which ultimately resulted in the authority of the resurrection.
the perfect pattern.
So, synthesizing this, the crushing or breaking we experience isn't meant to diminish us.
Not at all. It's precisely to prepare us for a level of authority and stewardship that we simply cannot carry while relying on our own strength. That deep humility, that submission, is the fertile soil where true, lasting wisdom is grown.
Exactly. And to move this from, abstract theology to a daily habit, the sources offer a powerful, actionable framework they call the surrender cycle.
I like that, a cycle.
It's a loop designed to keep a leader anchored in alignment. So let's break it down. It moves through 4 stages: trust, obey, depend, and lead. Starting with trust. This is the foundation, isn't it?
Trust is the absolute foundation.
Yeah.
It's the decision to believe that God's way, even when it looks illogical or counterintuitive, is wiser and more efficient than your own.
This is where you yield your understanding.
That's Proverbs 3.5 in leadership terms. You see this vividly in Joseph. He was betrayed, enslaved, and imprisoned. Human logic said,
This plan has failed.
right, it's over. But he maintained trust, continuing to execute the duties right in front of him, believing in God's unfolding plan, even in the worst circumstances.
And that positioned him.
His sustained trust positioned him for ultimate influence.
So trust leads, inevitably, to obey. But for a driven leader, obedience, that can be a stumbling block. It implies doing something without being given the full rationale.
It does, and that's why it's so critical. Obedience is walking in alignment with God's direction, even when you only have the first step illuminated.
The sources note that obedience almost always precedes clarity.
Almost always. You rarely get the full map before you start the journey. Think of Abraham, who literally walked out not knowing where he was going.
That's faith.
Obedience is the active step of saying yes without having the security of knowing precisely how the path will unfold. It requires trading guaranteed metrics for trusted direction.
That makes the third step, depend, sound like an ongoing, moment-by-moment necessity.
It is the operational rhythm of the cycle. Dependence is leaning on God's strengths daily, acknowledging that your finite power is made perfect in weakness, as 2 Corinthians 12.9 reminds us.
Dependence is the antidote to burnout.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
It frees leaders from that crushing, self-imposed burden of perpetual self-reliance and activates resources, divine wisdom, timing, endurance, that are inexhaustible.
It's where the work ceases to be a grind.
Exactly.
And when those 3 pieces, trust, obey, and depend, are in alignment, that leads to the final step, lead.
You lead in godly authority. And this is a form of leadership rooted entirely in alignment, not in striving or pushing human willpower.
Right.
Surrendered leaders lead from a profound place of rest, not pressure. They become unshakable because their power source is external, anchored in proven obedience.
And the team sees that.
The team sees strategic calm, not frantic scrambling.
So bringing this down to the ground level, what does daily surrender actually look like in the micro decisions of leadership? The sources aren't just talking about existential crises.
No, not at all. Daily surrender means releasing outcomes. You do the necessary diligent work, but you consciously release control over the results.
And submitting your strengths, not just your weaknesses.
Yes. Allowing him to direct your greatest talents. It means choosing stillness, reflection, and focused planning over impulsive striving.
And with people.
And on the people front, it means trusting God with your team.
Yeah.
Delegating not just tasks, but delegating with faith. Releasing control over how they do the job and focusing instead on stewarding their character and their potential.
So when a leader successfully integrates this cycle, the sources describe a comprehensive transformation. They gain what most leaders spend their entire careers chasing, but never quite catch.
That transformation is the ultimate reward of surrender. They gain direction without confusion,
Authority without striving.
peace without disengagement.
And sustainable influence without burnout.
It changes the entire tenor of their professional life.
And internally, the shift, surrender, purifies motives entirely. It takes leadership and frames it as stewardship, as accountability to a higher purpose.
Not a pursuit of personal significance.
Right. It utterly removes the illusion of self-sufficiency.
And that ultimately positions a leader to receive authority rather than grasping desperately for it.
So we're really talking about 2 totally different rule books for running a team.
Completely different.
Contrast those 2 models for us directly.
Okay. The world teaches leaders to grip tightly, right? Hoard resources, minimize risk.
Control everything.
But the kingdom teaches leaders to open their hands, trusting the supply. The world teaches leaders to push harder, to strain, to prove their worth through endless action.
While the king...
The kingdom teaches leaders to kneel deeper, finding power through alignment.
So the paradox is confirmed. Letting go does not weaken a leader.
It fundamentally and strategically empowers them. Surrender is not the end of leadership strength.
It is the indispensable beginning of true, lasting authority.
And that brings us back to you, the listener, and whatever specific challenge you're wrestling with today.
An impossible deadline, a staffing crisis.
A major financial decision. This isn't theoretical. It's a map for navigating daily action.
The question isn't whether surrender is risky.
No. The question is, where are you still holding the reins when the sources suggest God wants to drive?
That's a profound challenge, to examine those unseen burdens that control brings with it.
Indeed. What if the door you've been praying for, the one to clarity, to next-level influence, to freedom in your role, won't open because you're holding the handle too tightly?
Wow.
What if letting go is not the end of your leadership strength, but the necessary beginning of the kind of steady, wise leadership you were actually designed for?
That is the provocative thought we want to leave you with today. Consider one specific area in your current leadership where you can consciously choose surrender over self-reliance and just watch what shifts.
You might just find the clarity and freedom you've been striving to earn, waiting on the other side of release.